Welcome to the Rethink Leadership podcast with me, Jeremy Blaine. I interview leaders, experts and business professionals from around the world who are bringing leadership principles and know-how into the digitally driven 21st century workplace, with focus firmly on the how-to rather than the what. Each episode is in aid of a charity chosen by my guests, and since 2020, we've made donations to over 80 global and local causes. Welcome to Nancy Ho, a distinguished life strategist, clarity messenger, and state of mind specialist with over 26 years of experience guiding individuals toward holistic success. Throughout her illustrious career, Nancy has empowered over 10,000 clients, including C-suite execs, mid-level managers, and business owners to navigate the intricate balance between professional achievement and personal fulfillment, something we're all after. As an internationally recognized thought leader on the professional paradox, Nancy brings a unique perspective to the podcasting world, with a focus on helping high-performing professionals transcend the silent weight of success and find harmony in their professional personal lives. We get into the data around what's happening at leadership level and talk about what can be done and how leaders are making breakthroughs in balance. This episode is in aid of Giving Singapore, as a thank you to Nancy for joining us. Giving.sg is an integrated platform for multiple local and regional charities to highlight their operations and gather funding. Nancy, thanks so much for joining me. Please tell us about yourself, your expertise, and your books.
Right. I'm Nancy Ho, and I'm from Singapore. I've been a transformative coach, a life strategist, and a thought leader of the Paradox Success for as long as I think 26, coming 27 years. I call that my passion. That's the only thing I know how to do, to impact on people's life, to do what I believe that we all should live a life by our terms and not live someone else's life. Of course, not in a selfish way that living life in our terms, but really, if we cannot be comfortable within our own skin, then how can we show up to be our best self? That's what my belief is. Yeah.
And tell us about the books that you've written.
Yes, I've written 2 books. One is Love Reunited. Okay, that was my first book. Although it sounds like it is a relationship book, as like intimate relationship, although it says 5 ways, to overcome conflicts. That's right. That's my book. All right. But basically what it is, all right, it is a relationship book, as it's not only for intimate relationship. It speaks for across the board of all kinds of relationship. And of course, I also have co-authored a book with Jack Canfield, the legend guy that written the, what's that? For a moment. What's the book that he has written? A series of book. Chicken Soup for the Soul. How can I not remember? Chicken Soup for the Soul, that's Jack Canfield. And I'm so glad I'm on chapter 2, which I talk about the paradox of success for high-performing professionals. That's right. So I've done that.
That's great. And you very kindly, and I think there for everybody watching, you very kindly gave me a copy of your book. Now, I have to tell you, I had it on my desk, and I had some friends come round, and they came into my little office and said, "Ooh, what's wrong?" And I said, "Nothing. Why? What's it?" He said, "What's going on with Jackie, my wife? It's like," I said, "But why are you reading this book?" It's like, "No." And then I had to explain the whole, the whole thing.
Right.
So it's great.
But actually, even if you tell me, even you have been married for a long time, and I know they have been great relationship, but time again, there would be some conflict, wouldn't there be?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. We both dipped into it. Don't you worry about that, Nancy. It's right here in my office at all times. Yes, just in case I need some defense or
Right.
whatever, or a discussion. But anyway, let's switch our conversation to leadership and this passion of yours that you talk about, this transformative, being our transformative selves, if you like, and really kind of owning that, because there is a problem at leadership level around satisfaction, around fulfillment. And if our leaders are not satisfied, then how does that, kind of impact the rest of the organization? We can only do so. From all of your research and the work that you do. Why is there a problem at leadership level, and what's the data telling us?
Well, I would look at it this way that a lot of people, they enter or they go into something not exactly having a clarity why they do it, but it in relationship, but it in a job. All right. Even let's say we study, right? We went to school, we study, went to university, we graduate from the XYZ degree. And then we simply would kind of select a career that fits our expertise or what we studied for. So then, of course, the firefight as usual, right? We, enter the career, we want to do well and all that. So not a lot of people will actually sit back and understand why they do what they do, except the obvious that we need a job, we need to pay our bills, we need to climb the corporate ladder, and then we need to somebody, so-called again, what the societal or maybe even family expectation. Nothing wrong with that at all. All right, to live up, to a certain standard and climb the corporate ladder and all of that. But that's not enough. That's not the only thing that make us, jump out of bed and feeling good. I mean, there was a little story that, the wife, the female said to the male, like, you have to go to school. He says, no, I don't want to go to school. All right. He says, no, you have to go to school. It's important to go to school. So he went on, and apparently he's the principal of the school. You know what I mean? Right. So it's the same thing. Like, oh, I don't go, but you have to go. Yeah, of course, because there's responsibility. So the passion of wanting to do it has to really come from our inner ding. I call it the inner ding, our core that if you hear my voice a little bit husky, I've not been well for the last few days. I'm not sick, but I have this, cough and sore throat and runny nose. Anyway, the virus still around, live with it. But I still get out of bed and go to work. I still show up today, right, Jeremy? I said, unless, halfway through, I really can't make it. Otherwise, I don't want to cancel. But if I don't like what I'm doing now, I'll find every excuses to cancel it, right? To not to show up, because it seems like a reason. And it isn't a reason that excuses people to give themselves because they don't feel good. So the feeling good is not like we go to the beach or having a nice glass of wine or having a barbecue or whatever, reading a book. But the feel good is innate. You just feel good for no reason. Not for a external reason. I'll be happy when I get a promotion. I'll be happy when, this happened. That's not real joy. It's good to have some happiness of that some sort, but it's not the real, like I said, the inner ding joy. I wake up every morning and feel good, regardless whether I'm well or not well, I feel good. And that feel good also comes with gratitude. That's so big, which is again lacking. I have a lot of C-suites that come to me and I just said, what are you grateful for? And they literally look at me like, well, okay, I can't complain about my life. Then they go on complaining what they don't want. Yeah, it does. I mean, I'm sure that works. I mean, that happened with the people you work with as well, isn't it, Jeremy?
It is, and I'm quite interested, just as an aside, to talk about. So, what's the impact of these leaders where they clearly know this inside, but through the conversations with you, I guess now it's coming out and they're now questioning it. How does that kind of make them feel, and how does it impact their job when they don't want to go to school, like the principal, and how they show up?
It's tough. They really have to put on a facade. That they have to, but then again, they don't mean to want to show up in a negative way, but then they can't help because psychologically, if we don't feel good, all right, we press on. I mean, don't get me wrong, they have their values that they would still continue to do as much as they can do. But I like to believe at some point, you let the cat out of the bag, meaning at the expense of. It can be at the expense of their health. So get stressed, they get burnout, at the expense of their family time. at the expense of their relationship. And that's what my book, I know, the co-written, like I told, with Jack Canfield, all right, was all about, right? The paradox of success. So they do not feel the fulfillment, they have that void, and they have the unresolved stresses, all this at the expense of. And this is quite a typical scene that we are seeing in the whole world, regardless where we are, that we work hard, we accumulate our wealth, and unfortunately, at some point, that wealth is given to the doctors. It's very rarely, I mean, it sounds like morbid, but then facts are facts. It's very rarely that you do not hear of somebody passed on without a sickness. But I don't believe that's the way to go. I do not believe that. I mean, it's not. So I start with me. I exercise like at least 5 times a week. I be as happy as I can be, right? Of course, not every day is a sunny day. Even days that are not, that I call them the off days, right? So do I want to look at the glass half full, half empty, or sometimes just be neutral? It's hard from feeling not good, because not every day is sunny day, as I said, right? From not feeling good about some situation that may happen, and then you feel good. That won't work. But what I do is at least be neutral. All right, be neutral, and then you worked up to, like, feeling okay with whatever situation, because we do have our challenges in life. And especially those in the leadership role, they have obviously faced more challenges than a lot of people because they have so much on their plate. So I see it that way. Yeah. So self-care is number one.
Yeah, you're right. And the obvious question then is that you coach leaders who are, I suppose it's first of all being acknowledging what they know already inside. So how do you approach it with leaders that you work on to help them make breakthroughs on this? Kind of what's your why type thing that you would get to, because you talk about that gratitude element, and I know that you feel very strongly that they need that grounding in what's my why, as much as then how can I make progress.
Right. But before the why, I usually like to deep dive with them to get to the root cause. Just like everything else, if we don't know the root cause, then what are we fixing? Then we only fix what is on the superficial level. And on the superficial level, they know, they know what's not going well. For example, I have this client, okay, startup, but kind of around for 6 years. So doing well at the very beginning. Now is big challenge, although they got great products. I train their people. And then I find that, it was just last Friday, I was with their line managers, and they were all complaining that the boss is bringing too many projects. And we need to, at least have some solid, good projects, and they're on the generative AI, right? And therefore we can not run the risk of not satisfying the customer, all right, delivering the product. I said, I get it. Then I look at them, I said, do you know the trend today is you sell first, then you build? Right? Long time ago, you build, you get everything all ready, then you sell. I said the trend today is a lot of people, right? You say even a book, they sell the title first, then they write the book. Do you agree, Jeremy? All right. So, and a lot of products too, a lot of training program. I've done it. I told them, I said, my group coaching program and all that, right? I sell them the title first. I sell them the idea. I sell them the outcome. I sell them all of that. And then they say, yeah, okay, I love that. And they come in, and then I deliver. I mean, you have to follow the trend. So it is also difficult for leaders, all right, to be able to make especially the old school of thinking, to accept the new ways of doing things. So I did dive, right? Like I said, what is really the cause of their, let's say, dissatisfaction, or not getting the people do what they want them to do, and so on and so forth. So of course, everybody's different. So until I get to the root cause, all right, it's hard to then get to their why. Then after the root cause, then we are able to unpack, so to speak, all right, and put them in the various categories, and then they sit back, or rather I help them sit back and look at, what they value most. In order to know our why, we have to know our values. Values is not just integrity, love, impact. That's all values, but values also what we value most in our life. That means what's more important in our life. And then from there, what activities, so-called activities, which is called them the passion, that we're going to use to showcase our values. That's, to me, is the why. Yeah.
Yeah, I think getting to those that very, like you say, it's the root causes, which is the important thing here, because we're very good at treating symptoms in business and putting band-aids on and all of those kind of things. So I'm sure many of those tuning in would be leaders who can really resonate with this. So for those tuning in, what would be your kind of 4 or 5 suggestions for the leaders that sort of recognize what you're talking about here to move the dial in a more positive direction? And how does that help them improve their overall satisfaction and fulfillment as leaders as well as people?
Like I said, first thing, right? They do have to, even without any interference from myself or whoever coach, they have to sit back and really dig deep. What are they unhappy about? Okay, number one, what are they unhappy about? All right, and usually it's not about the present. The present triggers something in the past they never had. And a lot of people keep chasing what they do not have instead of working on what they have. So if a leader keep chasing what they do not have, of course, it's a different context. Like, sure, we want to pursue our goals. That's not the context I'm talking about. So if this company of young people, and then you expect these young people to think like my generation, okay, then it's tough. Then you're going for what you do not have because they cannot think that way. That's an example what I mean, what you do not have, all right? Then after that, the next step, all right, when you recognize that, then it's not just about what do I want. I like to always look at what you do not want first. Now, it's not meant to sound negative because a lot of what you want, it's like too wide and too much and too big, too general also. So I like to sort of take away what we don't want. Then what we want shows up better in a sense of the clarity of what we want then shows up when we eliminate what we don't want. Okay, now we know the so-called what makes us dissatisfied, unhappy. Then we know what we want by eliminating what we don't want. Then the third step, of course, strategy. All right, what are the steps to go about? Everything is strategy. We can't, I mean, me being a Chinese, all right, Singaporean Chinese. So every Chinese New Year, right? Often they say the horoscope, the Chinese horoscope, like this year is a dragon, and I'm a dragon, okay? And then they say, oh, the dragon year, so on so forth. Business will be this way, success will be this way, health, so on and so forth. And just as the other horoscope, I mean, maybe the ox or a pig or whatever. So even it could be saying, wow, this year is a great year. But if you don't have strategy, go about doing it. What great year? Similarly, somebody may say this is not exactly such a great year. But then again, all right, if you work through the strategy, you get somewhere. There will always be some low period in any case, in any business, in any industry, in anybody's life. But one shouldn't get affected by that. Right, true. Because it shall pass. No matter how bad, it will pass, So you look at strategies. And of course, looking at strategies, also you have to look at the blind spot. Yes, and often the blind spots are not looked at. I'll take my past lessons When do I make the biggest a mistake that I like, oh my goodness, how could I have done that, right? Is when I'm overly positive. Yes, not when I'm negative, because when I'm overly positive, I just don't see the blind spots. I think everything will be jolly, jolly well and all that, but no, you know what I mean? So I'm not saying be negative, oh, what if this happened, and be so overly cautious and overthinking. No, there are blind spots. And if you sort of again look at what blind spots there could be, then you can factor in your strategy to overcome it if it does happen, or you can have better strategy upon that. All right. So this is what I call the two-step forward thinking. Yeah.
Sorry, go on, carry on.
So these are the steps that I would be able to offer. Yes.
Yeah, and I think that's great, and it's certainly worth kind of reinforcing some of those that resonated with me as you were talking. Sit back for that deep reflection and give yourself time to just consider some of these. And in this fast pace of business and life that we live in right now, it's more difficult, isn't it? And then don't chase what you don't have. You cherish and start to value what you do have. You just, some of these things might be unobtainable, and unrealistic, right? And that's part of that reflection. And then from that should come that clarity about what you do want. And also once you've, as beautifully put, once you've illuminated what you don't want, in your life, to lead you then, at least at that point, you can start to work on the strategy and the steps to make progress in those areas, with help and with your own doing. Really like that. And it really does reinforce something else you said, that the focus for these leaders in some ways is counterintuitive. It needs to move away from we then me to me first, and then I can show up for everybody else, I think, isn't it? So that's great. Thank you for that, Nancy. And it leads to another question, which is, of course, these are, you work with leaders that have the courage to ask for help. Some don't. So from your expert point of view, what's the likely percentage of leaders out there who are suffering in silence? And what's the risk if they do nothing?
I cannot give you the percentage, but of course, the risk is that if they don't do well, as we know, the world is not very merciful. Results counts. The new program that I just came up with is called Mastering Peak Performance and Harnessing Excellence. And why I came up with that program, because at the end of the day, if you cannot produce results, it doesn't matter how good you are. Just like example I gave to my people, I said, you are a very good athlete. Okay, let's say you're going to do the track and field events, but you cannot cross the finishing line. And then that can come a dark horse, so to speak, that nobody expected that, he or she could win, and came from the back and crossed the finishing line. That dark horse wins. You know what I mean? So, I don't mean to be rude here in the sense that sometimes some leaders can get a little bit arrogant to think that they are very good, and I'm sure they are very good. But just like I said, if you don't cross the finishing line, then I guess your neck is on the chopping board. Not a good way to put it, but it is. Like I said, the world is not very merciful. Results is everything. So as I speak, I say that to myself every day. I'm not saying this to certain people or only, I'm saying this to myself. Okay, what's the results? What's the results? And as leader, I'm sure they know they have to produce the results for sure. And usually they are high D, if you're looking at the DISC personality profile, right? And a high D person, they tend to be driven and they want the results. But the flip side, or the weaknesses of a high D, I'm a high D, so I know that, okay? The weakness of a high D can be sometimes a little bit like too sure of themselves. All right. And then what I said, two, TOO, right? It's good to be certain and confident about oneself. But when you're too confident about oneself, then again, that's the blind spots. Yeah.
Yeah, and
So
it's kind of leaving your ego at the door, isn't it? And holding your hand up and saying, you know what, I don't know everything, and I'm suffering a little bit in silence here, so need a bit of help.
yes, exactly. As I speak of me being a coach, I've got coaches too.
Yeah.
And I've said to my people, and they know that the reason why I'm so good to continue coaching you guys, because I've been coached. I can know everything. So I'm always keeping up, all right, because I've been coached too. So I'm not like, I just use what I already know. I don't need to know anymore. Of course not, it's ever-changing world. I have 5 coaches as I speak at any given time. Yeah, I have 5 coaches. I invest a lot of money in coaching and to keep myself up to speed, so to speak. That's very, very important. Yeah.
Yeah, I concur. I have coaches and mentors as well,
Yes.
to help me, and that's changed the game for me. I was one of these leaders that knew all of this was going on, but internalized it. And yeah, and I nearly broke down. It's just like kind of you want to make a breakthrough. You don't want to break down, do you? So absolutely right. So so the final thing to ask you then is that, so for those leaders say, right, I really get this now, how do they break some of those barriers and remove the shackles and make some progress for themselves? Just a few kind of key steps, first of all, that they can take now after they've listened to your wonderful words.
Okay. First thing first, I like the fact that you mentioned just now about ego. uh, so one has to recognize that ego has no place in our life. We want self-pride, right? Self-pride is more than positive, right? We have that pride, whether it's like you are house proud, that kind of self-pride in yourself to start with as a leader. As I mentioned earlier, how do you want to show up? So the first thing is have a personal vision statement. That is so key because that's the direction, and that's where it keeps a leader on top of their game and keep going without stress. If a leader is just looking at the numbers are important, of course, but only driving the numbers, I like to believe you don't even know what you're doing. You just want to drive the number and you will just piss a lot of people off. And I've worked with company that turnover is so high. The human capital is critical. So you need that respect. Just like our founding father, our late Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, right? He's someone to be so respected because he has his vision, his personal vision, and the vision for the country. So, it's interesting. We always find some kind of skeleton in the closet when someone passed on, but not Lee Kuan Yew. It's been so many years and he's still clean. He and his wife, they're clean. So again, the first thing is having a personal vision statement. Then next, all right, because of the personal vision statement, you know where you're going. And look at what I call, we talk about strategy, but now I want to reframe it like the steps needed. And don't take too many steps. 2 to 3 steps enough. Because when we have so many steps, right? Okay, yeah, we need an overall strategy. But if you have like 10, 20 steps, it's overwhelming. That is like, oh my God, what do I do now? Where do I go? Right? Just have the fairly immediate 2 to 3 steps, because anyway, just like when you drive, right? You can only see what your vision is, 20 meters, that's about all, the visibility. 20 meters, you can't see anything further than that. You have to go to that 20 meters, see the next 20 meters. But of course, you must have an idea where you're going, right? Where's the destination? Hence the vision statement. All right, but don't get overwhelmed with so many steps because it's just too many. So 2 to 3 steps. All right, and of course, most important, involve your people. Make their ideas don't make your ideas become like, carved in stone. It's my idea, go do it. All right, make it is their ideas. They want it to. And that's what teamwork is about. Of course, everything else, we're going to start from tops down, not bottoms up. I used to do a lot of training in the past, and I give up with those kind of training where you show up 1 day, 2 days. I don't do that anymore because one of the typical things they said, oh, my boss should have been here. Right? They send their people and expect me to do magic with that 2 days. No, I can't do that. So I do a continual work with the corporate clients, not the 1-2 day stuff. Right? So you have to involve your people. And I have created core values for the company. So everyone work on the basis of the core values. So it become a together thing. So I like to believe that with these various steps, and of course, there will always be some challenges, and how do you cross the bridge when you get there? It's not to overthink. Yes, we want to look at some blind spots, but at the same time, all right, just deal with it when it comes. And when you have this teamwork together, I'm sure you can deal with it together in a more positive way. Yeah.
That's right. Stronger together, right? What a nice way to close that off. Well, I must thank you for a great conversation, Nancy, and I'm sure that those listening will want to get in touch, find out more, find out from your books as well, get hold of your books. How do they do all that, Nancy?
Oh, yes, I think so. This is that book that I talk about Success Redefined by Jack Canfield, myself. Of course, there are also other authors. You can get it in Amazon.com. Right? Success Redefined. If you want to reach out to me, you can search me in LinkedIn, or I have a very simple email, which is nancy@nancyho.net. Even just search Nancy Ho, it's easy to find me. Yes,
yeah,
Singapore.
On LinkedIn and this, absolutely, yes. And yeah, you are, and I know you're everywhere, Nancy. So thank you so much for joining me. Really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thanks for tuning in to the Rethink Leadership podcast with me, Jeremy Blaine. Please like, comment, and support us on your favourite platform, and subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can watch as well as listen to each episode.